I'm David Griffin. It's the 26th of July 2018. I'm here at Derbyshire County Cricket Club and I'm talking with
Nigel Gardner.
Nigel. We've covered quite a lot of ground in the first couple of interviews, but I think we're around about 1993. You'd mentioned in the last interview about how Derbyshire had won a one-day final at Lords without an overseas player and the emergence of Dominic Cork. But of course there was a change in terms of the, if you like, a power shift, because Chris Middleton, a chairman who you mentioned earlier, had gone and Mike Horton had come in. And of course Kim gave up the captaincy at the end of 1995. First of all, was there an inevitability about Kim's giving up the captaincy, and what was the reaction when his successor was appointed?
Well, I think there's always a shelf life to these things. Kim was captain for a long time, and when Dean Jones came in, I think Kim obviously played under Dean for the first season or so, and it was very successful.
Was Jones a surprise appointment, or was that you picked it up as a journalist? Were you aware of? Because certainly as a member, looking back, we were delighted because we knew of his record, but we're really surprised because we'd never gone for Australians. It had always been West Indians. South Africans tended to be the appointees. Was it a left field appointment?
In some ways it was, and also because of course he came with this chap called Les Stillman, who no one knew anything about at all, and they'd been together at Victoria. And I remember before they arrived, there was this a story came out from Australia that there'd been this big fallout at Victoria. So there was a certain element of trepidation about that to begin with. But initially everything was fine. I mean, Dean Jones was hugely successful as a batsman. Not the easiest person to deal with as a captain. Nowhere near the same sort of person as Kim.
Was that because you built up a relationship with Kim?
Absolutely.
From 22, whereas Dean was a mature Test cricketer?
Yeah, no, I mean he had a different way of doing things. He would speak to you, but he would speak to you at the end of matches. He wouldn't talk much during the game. So he would, at the end of the game, he would come and talk and that sort of thing. And initially, of course, it went very well. They almost won the championship in that first season. 96.
Yeah. Glorious year.
Yeah. And they finished. Did they finish
second? Yeah,
second. They beat Warwickshire, didn't they, in the last match? Yeah. But it was that game down at Taunton, wasn't it, where it slipped away? I think was that the match where it didn't quite.
Yeah. There were a couple. There was the early season defeat to Leicestershire, wasn't there? But it was. I mean, Gerald Mortimer always said it was his greatest, most enjoyable summer of his cricketing life.
Yeah. But
was there ever a hint from a journalist's perspective of, because presumably at this time you're still having a drink with the players post-match, was there any hint at that time in 96, in the good year, that there was a problem coming later?
It was difficult to pinpoint anything precisely. There were a few rumblings about various things, but there always are. You can't expect to have a dressing room full of the same group of people spread over a 6-month period and expect everything to be sweetness and light. People are going to fall out, going to have differences of opinion. There was nothing. You wouldn't have thought there was anything particularly major, but then it all came to a head the following season, and it appeared that, of course, that Dean Jones was being undermined by the guy he trusted in Les Stillman, and once again everything blew up. It tends to happen here, doesn't it? That when things seem to be going right on the field, something goes wrong off the field, and if things are going wrong right off the field, then the team's falling apart. But yeah, and I remember it all blew up when we were at a game. I think they were playing Hampshire at Queen's Park, and we were sat in the what was the old press box then, which was also doubled up as a groundsman's hut, and Les Stillman came in and sat at the back and started basically speaking out loud in what was I think was best described as indiscreet way, and that was the beginning of it.
I remember that game because as members we were sat on the boundary and we could tell from the reaction of the captain and just some of the things you could hear him saying audibly to the 12th man and other people. I remember turning to someone I was sitting with and saying, there's something not right here, there's something going to happen here. And of course it did, didn't it?
It did.
Following that game.
Yeah, well, Dean Jones didn't stay after that. He left. Derbyshire lost that match, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they made 310 for 3 to win the game. It was they knocked them off quite comfortably.
They did. I think Matthew Hayden might have been playing for Hampshire then. I think he scored 100. And Derbyshire lost the match, and Dean Jones went back to Australia.
How do you respond as a journalist to something that's so, it just happens like that in the blink of an eye, without too much warning?
Well, you do basically just respond. You try to find out what's happened. You try to get an idea of why this is why a player, in this case Dean Jones, why a captain has basically walked out in the first few months of the season. And you talk to people and you try to get an understanding of what caused it. And it isn't always easy, of course, and you can't always publicly report what you may know privately. But certainly that was a very, very turbulent period for Derbyshire. But it hadn't been the first, won't be the last.
It was though, probably, if you look at 97, because it was the year that also we lose the captain and the coach, but also the chief executive, the finance director, and the chairman all go at the same time. And Mike Horton had been a breath of fresh air really in Derbyshire because he'd been very no nonsense. He'd sort of got the committee organised and he got the finances back on track, which of course had been a big problem. So how did you work much with Mike when he was chairman? Or
yes, indeed. I remember talking to Mike when Devon Malcolm took his 9 wickets at the Oval for England, and on how they were going to, plan to celebrate or mark the occasion that a Derbyshire player had taken 9 wickets in an innings of a Test match, and I think Mike thought a cake might possibly be, but I think it was something a little bit more substantial than that. The thing with Mike was very good with the finances. There's no doubt about that. Probably, perhaps didn't handle things as well as he could have done, player-wise, in some respect. But I think a lot of people who come into sport from a business background, from running businesses and such like, it's not as easy to run a sporting organisation as it is in a way that you might run a factory or any other form of commercial enterprise, because there are other things. It's not all cut and dry, and I think sometimes people like Mike Horton, who've had success in business, they get frustrated. They find that they can't push through the reforms and the sort of things that they want to do. And the very thing that makes them successful in business by making these quick decisions. Sometimes you might just turn around and say, I don't really want, I've had enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. So I think it was a very, very difficult time, certainly, for the club. I'm trying to think who came in and ended up taking the flak, as it were, really. Is it
Well,
a chap called Edwards, was it?
well, Ian Edwards, yes,
Yeah.
was around, and of course Vic Brownett replaced
Yeah.
Mike very short
Yeah.
term, and then Trevor Barron came in. Because I mean, if you look over really the ensuing 20 years, what's really, I guess, has happened more than anything in cricket is the gap has got bigger between bigger and smaller,
Yeah.
and the migration of players to other counties. And actually, that year in 97, we didn't just lose Jones and Stillman and the chairman and everyone I've already mentioned, but also Devon Malcolm went to Northamptonshire, and Chris Adams went to Sussex. The following year, Kim Barnett left, and we'd already had John Morris and Peter Bowler had gone earlier. But basically, that team, albeit by the end of the 20th century would have been ageing, nonetheless they all went elsewhere. Adams won 3 championships, Kim won 5 one-day trophies. So it was decimated, wasn't it, that team?
It was.
And it's a question of, I mean, a question for you, was it decimated by personal behaviours, or was it decimated because the lure of going elsewhere was greater by that?
I think there was I think there was a bit of both. I think that some players used the fact that there was that they didn't get on with certain people as a reason for wanting to go, when really they were probably looking for more money, because there were better deals on the table. But I think there was this element that other counties were starting to be able to pay more money, and as we now know, you can see it happens now all the time. When Leicestershire certainly come to mind in recent years as providing a lot of very, very good cricketers who go on to play for England, but they've not played for England whilst a Leicestershire player. They've moved on to maybe Nottinghamshire and 1 or 2 other counties. And again, that's a whole sign of the power base now lies with the test grounds. But I think back then there was certainly an element of players manipulating the circumstances to try to suit why they would want to leave, and rather than come out and say, well, I'm going because I'm going to get more money, they would say, well, I've fallen out with so and so, or I can't play under him, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So
looking at the 21st century, I mean, we all try to be positive because we have Derbyshire in our hearts, and I accept that you have to have perhaps a more dispassionate view of it as a journalist, but you have been covering Derbyshire for 35, 36 years. But we can't pretend that the era we've just talked about was, as you described in an earlier interview, a golden age of Derbyshire cricket, if not the golden age.
That's right.
And therefore, when you look at the 21st century performances, although there have been a few highlights, it's been a more difficult time. How do you assess the 21st century cricket in Derbyshire, 2 divisions, and T20 cricket, of course, being the main changes to the domestic game in that time?
Well, I think there will always be split opinion about 2 divisions. I personally don't think it's made the game any better. I think that when everyone played everyone else, I think that was a proper test. I think this, if you want, I could call it the premierisation of cricket, this having a first division. And of course, it doesn't always work that way, because Middlesex at the moment are in the second division. But I think there will come a time when you will get the bigger counties with the test grounds will all be in the first division, and they will get stronger. They will have the bigger financial clout, and I think it will become harder and harder, sadly, for other counties to compete.
Do you think it's? I always feel it's unfortunate for players who get dismissed as second division players, for example, where using your preferred option, it's certainly mine, of 1 division.
Yeah.
If you could see every player play against every county, you wouldn't have that, because it's quite it's not a very nice thing to say about players, and I always think it's unfortunate because it's not their fault that they're in the division they're in, but you just kind of think it means the only way they can get international recognition or even
is going to play in the
considered for
First
it
Division.
is to go and play elsewhere,
Yeah.
which seems so
There is
disappointing.
there does now appear to be that feeling that if you're not playing in the First Division, if you're scoring runs and taking wickets in the Second Division, it doesn't seem to have the same sort of authority or gravitas about it.
Yeah.
It's as though it's almost as though you're getting sort of cheap runs and cheap wickets.
Second class.
Which I don't. Well, almost. Yeah. Which I don't agree with. And I think there is well, we could look at an example here when Derbyshire were promoted. Wayne Madsen in that season in Division 1, although Derbyshire were relegated, he was one of the top batsmen in the country. He had his best season for Derbyshire.
He was the first to 1,000 runs.
He was the first to 1,000 runs, and he had an outstanding season. So that shows that there are players who are playing in Division 2 who are more than capable of playing and succeeding in Division 1.
Would it be fair to say, however, without being too negative, that the changes will not be reversed? So we're kind of going to be, we do our best, but are likely to be a feeder club if anyone particularly outstanding comes through at youth level, and that's just the way it's going to be. You described the issue at Leicestershire, that will just happen to Derbyshire.
I can't, if I'm being honest, I can't see how it's going to be reversed. I mean, we're now looking at the possibility in a couple of seasons of having city cricket in whatever form it is, whether it's the 100 ball or whether it's still T20, and that's only going to make the larger clubs stronger. I think it's going to devalue other competitions, sadly. People are already concerned about the way the county championship is now shoehorned into the start and the end of the season with very little in the middle.
It's a good point, though,
yeah.
because we've just watched a fabulous four-day game at Derbyshire at
Absolutely.
Chesterfield,
Yeah.
and yet we don't play again in four-day cricket until the 17th or 18th, 19th of August,
Yeah.
which is almost a month.
Almost
away.
a month.
And here we are in the heart of one of the hottest summers
Yeah.
in history on record.
So all that
four-day
momentum
cricket,
and feel-good thing or whatever
just dissipates, doesn't it?
has now gone.
Yeah.
And you're now back into playing T20. And you cannot. We've seen some fabulous crowds this season for T20 cricket. So there is clearly a demand, and the public clearly want to watch games like that. But I think there should be a place for everything, and I think it will be a very, very sad day if county cricket or the county championship becomes more marginalised than it already is, because in the end that's where you're going to find your test cricketers are going to come from. But will it go back to the way it was? I don't see how it can now. I just think that the people who run the game now feel that there's another way, that they have to try to almost match what is an instant society to their own sport. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but it's very difficult to reverse these things once they're put in place. And all I would say is that I hope that whatever they do, that they don't take away from other counties who won't be involved in the city franchises, that they don't devalue their own domestic competitions, because there will surely still be a domestic T20 and such like. Yeah. And I think that's only right for the counties who have membership and people paying good money. They want to watch decent cricket. They won't want to watch second 11 cricket because the players have been taken away for another competition.
I think there'll be a lot of people saying hear to that. For now, Nigel, thank you very much.